Previously on the Dozenspeed channel.
Well, my name is Raymond Hoffstetter.
And now, the exciting conclusion of the life and times of Raymond Hoffstetter so far. This particular Dozenspeed video is sponsored by the Dozenspeed Film Foundation on behalf of Hammond's Books. Hammond's Books. They sell books.
Hey, Knez, you won't believe how many books we sold this weekend.
Oh, good. We still have 100,000 books left, though, and it would be good if we could widen our customer base.
Knez, what on earth are you talking about? We have a great customer base of people who read.
Yeah, but there's other uses for books, we can sell them to people who want to put them in their house to impress.
Yeah, but they already do that.
We could sell them in bundles by color to people for home decor.
Maybe.
We could sell them to people who put the books in the walls of their house to cut down on energy costs.
Oh, come on now.
How's this? We sell 50-pound bags of books. People put them in their trunk to create traction when it's snowing.
After 40 years, Hammond's Books, we're still on beautiful Antique Row. And we're not going to ask you what you want the books for. I hope you read them. But whatever you want them for, come down. We can help you.
Now, let's see, where was I? I'd like to tell you about when I had the honor of receiving the NATAS, that's N-A-T-A-S, National Association of Television Arts and Sciences. It's a national organization that awards Emmys for daytime television stars and things like that. And the Midwest chapter, which is there's the East, West, and the Midwest. I was inducted into what they call their gold circle for 50 years of being in television, because it was more than 50 years. It actually ended up being 66 years. But it's like the Hall of Fame, and I was my co-archivist and myself, we were the second and third to be inducted into that. Of course, television hadn't been around that long. There could be too many people who have been in it for 50 years. But I do recall that we were sitting in the audience, and the guy said, when the time comes, follow this one award, and then you guys come backstage and we'll introduce you. So when our time came, we came backstage, and I remember the producer was standing there with the headphones on talking, and he's complaining that his show was getting so dried and dull that can anybody think of something to liven this thing? Well, that's all I needed to hear. So when the time came, my fellow archivist, he was escorted by a young, beautiful lady in an evening gown, and I was too. And I'll tell you, the thrill was that the entire audience of about 400 people stood up and applauded. I said, that is really something. Anyway, then he introduced himself, and I got a chance to say something. And of course, what I wanted to do was to thank everybody who helped me along in my career, in the station and out, but especially my wife. When I was working in the news department, never knew what hours you're going to work. Do you have to be in early? Are you going to get home late? Were you going to be coming home the next day? When were you going to go? And were you going into a dangerous situation and all? And I just thanked her, because, boy, without her, she accepted all of the bad side and the unbelievably taunt sides. Where was he? What's he doing? And she'd hear on the radio about car crashes or something. Was he involved or not? So we were married over 64 years, and so she put up with it quite a bit. And I would have never. She gave me so much encouragement all along the way. You're doing good. Keep doing it. And she was almost willing to take the backhand. I remember when we got done up on the stage, I came back and sat down next to her in the audience, and she grabbed my hand and squeezed it. That's all I needed to feel. But back to getting the award, they said the show was kind of dragging. Well, having some show business in me, they wanted us to introduce the next act or the next award. And my coworker said, you talk to the audience, I'll just present the award. Well, all the stuff was on a teleprompter, and I could read it off of that. And so we awarded the first one, and I said I wanted to let the audience know that when I started in television, we didn't have teleprompters or on a screen like that. What they did was they typed with a large print on cards, stapled it to a stick, and held it over the lens, and we would drag that across so the announcer could read and see what he had to say. And I said we called that the idiot stick, and not for the guy holding it. Then I came back after the next award. I said I want to apologize to all of the announcers who had to use a stick like that and who made mistakes because it was all live. And I said I recall too, and especially was we had a announcer who had to tell people about a laundry. They had farm fit shirts, and he had to say that live and make sure he got through it. And the other difficult wordage was Costello's cottage cheese with large tender curds. So it was an apology to them for that. But that was a great honor getting that award. And it was only about 3 years later where the St. Louis Broadcast Museum Hall of Fame, I was inducted into that. And that was another noble thing that I never expected, but was really glad to get. It's really nice when you get it's an honor to get awards like that, when people recognize what you've contributed to the business in television. So some of the things I guess my wife would have been worried about was that I remember one night often I would be called in the middle of the night, 1:32 in the morning. We didn't have a night crew going around, but the news, the fellow in charge of the newsroom at night would call up, Ray, we got a situation, go here, go there. I know one of them was that there was a alarm from a riverboat down tied up at the dock. It was a restaurant, and it could have was the fire department was going there, and I'd waiting to hear what the fire. I had a police fire radio, and the report came back that the ship was not on fire, it was sinking. So I up out of bed, raced down there to get pictures of this in the cold of the night. And one of the other ones that I've told people about was one of the weirdest ones, or if you want to call it weird, was that I got called and said there was a neighborhood down in South St. Louis was being evacuated because they found explosives in this one house. And what it was some gentleman who had been tossed out of this bar because he was becoming unruly and he had a little too much to drink. And he waited till the bar closed and came back about 1 a.m. and used some dynamite to blow in the front door. It didn't cause a fire, but the bomb squad was called because explosives were used. And when he finally, after circling the block several times to see what was going on, the police saw him stop and they asked him what he doing, and he said, "Well, I'm the guy that did that." And they said, "You got any more dynamite?" And he said, "Yeah, in the trunk of my car." Well, they were surprised to hear that. They found a couple of sticks of dynamite there. Then he said, "I got more at home." And he lived on the second floor of his apartment, and it was up on the shelf. He had stolen the dynamite from a construction site, and quite a while ago, so they weren't sure how stable it would be. So they evacuated all the houses around there. And when I got down there with the camera, the bomb squad what they had done is they had attached a small rope around the box sitting on a shelf, put mattresses and pillows all underneath of it, and ran a rope out of the window down to the sidewalk and to the house to cross the street. And the two bomb experts were crouching down there, and I was crouching down too, but I held the camera up over the roof of the car and tried to get pictures of anything happened. And he said, "You better get down." I said, "Well, how bad is it if that goes off?" And he said, "Do you have hemorrhoids?" And I said, "No." He says, "You'll never have them." But they pulled it off. It landed on the mattress, didn't explode. The guy with the big heavy suit went out in and brought the box out. And they took it off someplace to destroy it. But it's nights like that when you get home and tell your wife, I was in a place where they found a box full of dynamite, that how she survived some of the things that happened like that, I cannot really understand. But it was things like that that made the job interesting and different than anything else I've ever done. And I was just so happy to get a job like that. That was unbelievable. I guess I'll go back to one other thing. One other thing, if I could mention. I think I told you I was interested in blimps being used for anti-submarine warfare when I was in the Navy in World War II. But anyway, the Today Show came to St. Louis in 1976 and did their show right from the riverfront. All of the cast, the announcers, and all that were there. And of course, we were NBC, Channel 5, it was KSD, was NBC, and we were there working with them. And they wanted somebody to go up and ride around in the blimp getting pictures of the crowd and that. Well, fortunately, they pointed to me, so I got that job. And the fellow directing says, "Be back here tomorrow morning at 2 o'clock," because that's the day that they were going to go on the air. It was a Monday morning. And be here at 2 o'clock because it's 3 o'clock in New York, and they set it up. And so I got there early. They fixed up, my camera was hanging on a hook, took the whole side panel off, and I could move around and take pictures. Now it's all done remotely. But we were up there all day, all morning long, just circling downtown, far west is Union Station, shooting pictures of the thing. And it was really something different. I really enjoyed it. Finally, when it was 9 o'clock our time, 10 o'clock in New York, and the network was dropping it, the pilot, Larry Chambers was his name, he said, "You don't mind if we stay up a little longer?" He says, Goodyear's getting some publicity shots from a plane showing the blimp and the arch in the city in the background. I said, "Oh, you can stay up here all day, as far as I'm concerned." So anyway, I had told him about my desire to be in a blimp during World War II. So when they got done taking the pictures and we were heading back to, used to be Parks Bi-State Airport, where the blimp was being kept over there, he says, "Ray, come here." He got out of the seat, told me to sit down, and I got to fly the Goodyear blimp. That was more than I could have done in the Navy. It's not difficult to do, but he was there. It's a big wheel. You push on the right, forward, it goes down, and you pull it back this way, it goes up. It'll always center itself, so it'll stop in one place. And then two big pedals on the floor. You push the right one down, you'll turn right. You push the left one down, you'll turn left. So I got to fly it, not too many maneuvers, back toward Bi-State, and then he took over the land. But I got to say that I got to fly a Goodyear blimp. The other thing I got to be in charge of was when the ship I got on in the Navy, it was going out for trial runs after we put the anti-aircraft guns on. And we went out on a trial run, and my general quarters, everybody had a special station, was a secondary command post, which was all of the instruments like they had on the bridge, except that if the bridge was knocked out or couldn't be used, they would go to secondary command where I was. And my job was to have headphones on and give orders get orders from all the stations around there. Well, we were out at sea there, and after I guess a half hour or so, somebody said, I heard over the headphones, "Secondary con," and I said, "Aye," and they said, "The bridge has been disabled. you have now command of the ship. So I just looked around. I said, what do we do? And nobody seemed to know. And they said, well, just come, different maneuvers and speeds. So I said, okay. So I turned the steering wheel a little bit to the right or to the left, port or starboard, excuse me, and just changed the speeds a bit. And the voice came back, be more evasive. Tell the officer there that you be more evasive. And I said, there is no officer here. And you could immediately up on the bridge, you could see them, all the officers looking out, looking back down. We've got command back. You don't have it, secondary con. The officer had fallen asleep or something. He came up about 5 minutes later and with his life jacket, and I'm sure he got really reprimanded. So not only did they get to fly a blimp, I was in charge of a multi-million-dollar Navy ship for about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, not only giving commands, but doing all the procedures to do it with. So it's what a life, what a life. I think it was 1935 when my dad was working away and my mother would take us out. I guess it was around there. Anyway, would take us out to the movies or something because he worked nights at theaters. Everything was at night, except Saturday and Sunday. We had a matinee. And holidays, you had a matinee. So he was gone quite a bit. And we got home and the place had been burglarized. They broke in the front door. And I don't know exactly I was a kid, all what they stole. But we had an old RCA radio. It had a stand with the speaker, and then your radio sat on top of it with the on and off switch, the volume control, and the dial. They took that, not the battle part. And I know I had an uncle who worked for Scruggs or Sticks or something downtown. And he said, I can get this to top part for you. So he did that, and I remember they brought it out, and he came with them, and he installed it and hooked it all up for us. And he said, someday we're going to have television here. He said, you'll be able to see the shows instead of just listening to them. And my first thought of it was that you'll see somebody standing in front of a microphone. You'd see a film of the video of the show at the radio show, not that it would be something special. That was the first time I heard of television. And when I got working in television, I had no idea of being in the news crew or anything because I was a camera nut. I had a little small camera my grandmother gave me, or my mother, I think it was my grandma, my birthday. And I graduated after the war it was a Voigtlander. It was a German, real good one. Some GI, I think, got it from a Nazi soldier or something. And then I ended up getting a 35 millimeter one. And I love taking pictures. And when we went to Germany for the first time with another couple, he took home movies and I took pictures with his Minolta camera that he borrowed. Because I didn't have that other A1 camera at the time. I took slides. Because you take a picture, I got to pass it around to grandma and all. These slides, it's up there to look at, comment, stays longer, gets rid. And out of 603 slides, 600 of them were all good. So I had an eye to what to shoot. It's like when we were up in Alaska and everybody wants their picture taken next to the sign that says, "Welcome to Alaska." Well, they stand right up by the sign, and God, they're that big on the big picture. So I had my wife and I stand waiting. Don't you want to go back? No, right where I am. You take it. Well, we're out here. You can still see the sign, but you can see us in the picture. The depth of the thing was it. So anyway, I had no idea. And then suddenly, when I got to go into this film thing, the first day I was assigned. You're going to work with us starting Monday. Well, I had my car. They didn't have a rental car yet. And they gave me a camera, and he said, go out and just shoot different things. Let's see what you can do. Just make up anything you want. Well, it was down on the riverfront because the water was high, and shooting some of that. And I had my police radio from my house I had in the car, and he said about a building collapse at 12th and Washington. Well, I zipped down there. What it was they were moving a big printing press, and a strap got loose and it fell from one floor into part of the next one. And it was not a collapse, but that's what it was. So I'm the only one there on the scene, nobody else. And I'm getting pictures of all the firemen going up on a ladder because they didn't know what was exactly, and all the hoses running out that they didn't need, but I guess they could have had a fire. But it led the news. The guy says, boy, you're talking about that. The first day on the job, and it leads the news thing, you know. So, and then the one that, when they finally said, well, you're going to be a cameraman, I had been a sound man. The film, local 666 out of Chicago. That was a cameraman's local out of Chicago. And local 6 was ones that was I was with the sound man, the same local, IATSE, but different locals. And anyway, the boss called me one day. This is when the St. Louis Cardinals football team was playing, and they said that Washington called up. They weren't televising every game. In fact, CBS was televising for CBS. You couldn't get a footage from them. They wouldn't give you anything, and we wouldn't give them anything from NBC. It was just strictly, they didn't share it. So anyway, he said, the Washington station called up and they want to know if you can get we can get it some video. Would you want to work the game? I said, oh, hell yeah. So I got down there and I got the film camera, and I brought in 7 cans of film. And what I would do is I would shoot the scoreboard, show the time and the score, get some of the action, only when the quarterback was underneath, because they weren't going to use breaking the huddle and all that coming back. And then when it was a score, I'd shoot the score and that. The sound man was getting natural sound of it. Well, while I'm setting up, down comes the cameraman from Channel 4. And he and a couple other guys from 666, you know, what are you doing running a camera? You're a stagehand. I said, well, they asked me to be. I said, I'm not going to say no. You know, and they kind of look down at you like that. And I already had applied for membership in 666, and they wouldn't send me an application. But when I sent dues in, they accepted those, you know. So anyway, I was up there. I got the one can. First quarter, they get time, you know, put it in the can, label it first quarter. Second can, put it up there. Even if I only shot 10 minutes out of an 11, or 5 minutes out of 11, it was all on there. Each can was separate. Well, that still happens that game. They get down and the Cardinals are losing to Washington and with minutes to go, seconds, and they throw a pass in the end zone and Mel Gray catches it, jumps up and catches it. And as he's coming down, they tackle him. The ball gets away. But the rules back then says if you're in the end zone and have possession, you know, it's a touchdown. Nowadays you have to have feet on the ground. Back then, so finally the umpires got off and they're huddling and they're talking, and I'm getting pictures of that too. And finally the touchdown, everybody cheers. So when they go into overtime, the guy next to me, he's got 4 reels of film. Now we're in the 5th quarter. I took a can of film and slid it over to him like that. That's just the guy that was looking at you doing, you know. And I got done shooting it, and they said, the one guy said, when you get done with this, take it over to the radio booth, because the guy in the radio was going to take the cans back to Washington. And when I came back, the guy was gone. And I said, oh, hey, did he say anything? The guy, my sound, I said, no, he just packed up and left. I thought, oh, okay. Next morning, I go to work at 8 o'clock. The receptionist said, Ray, got a package for you here. There's a bottle of, what is that? Not some kind of real good whiskey that they had, with my name on it, and nothing else. No Charlie, but I knew this. Yeah, it did say Charlie. Nothing else. After that, he was a real nice guy. I mean, he was anything I can do for you, Ray, because if I could have said I didn't have anything, and he, what does he do? He's out of film, and you can't run back to your station to get it. I didn't say a word to anybody about that, not a soul, until after he died, and then we got talking about it. Because I could have called him, you know, they made him the joke of something that he's didn't have it. So anyway, he was the nicest guy after that. What can I do for you, Ray? You know, this and that. He was not prepared, because he asked me, you know how to shoot football? I said, yes, I do. I was down here before. Oh, I can't think of anything else other than Well, I didn't mention my wife enough, though. When I was in the news, anyway, I get a call in the middle of the night, and you'd run out, you know, and then she didn't know when I was coming back. And then, of course, when I went over to Arabia, the day before, 2 days before we were going to leave, Dick Ford says, "Hey, Ray, I just found out my life insurance won't cover me in a war zone." So he says, "I don't know if I'm going to go." He says, "You better check yours too." Well, what the company did was to sign a life insurance policy on the three of us. It took effect when we left the United States until we returned. So that because Saddam Hussein said he's going to shoot down American planes, you know, he didn't do it, but he said it. So it was for $500,000, $500,000. And I always kid people, when I told my wife, she starts saying, "Oh, you know." But no, I don't want money, I want you to get back here. But things like that, and then I'd, you know, middle of the night, I'd leave, or there's something, 2 in the morning, or then she'd be ready we're going to have dinner tonight. I felt like I got to work late tonight. We got a meeting at City Hall or something like that. And it was most of it was really enjoyable stuff, but there were some times when it was a bummer. I hated to go over to the courthouse. There's a trial going on. You can't take the cameras into court. So we'd be out in the hall, the other television station. No benches, you had a hard terrazzo floor to sit on. And if you had to go to the bathroom, it would be your luck just when you're down there that they break loose and everybody comes running out and you miss it, you know. So those were, and you'd be there for 3 and 4 hours. I said, I'd rather be shooting anything but that. I never did care much for that. So, but the rest of it was fine. Because I was very fortunate. God, the things I've done and the places I've been. When the Pueblo came back, remember North Korea's captured the ship. There was a Navy ship off of North Korea in 1960 something. They held them prisoner for a year. They released them, and they came into San Diego. Well, we used the Post-Dispatch, owned their own plane at the time. We flew out there early in the morning, came back that night, you know, and it just zipped you do fast as you could. So I've been to 3 different conventions where McGovern was nominated, where Reagan was nominated, and I can't think of the other one. And those are a pain too, you know. The network people look down on you. You're just a local station, you know. We got reporters. They have correspondents, you know. And well, near the end, though, not the reason I left. My wife said, "You always want to travel. Because there's about 60 guys on the staff, not cameramen, but engineers in the studio and all. In January of this coming January, the senior top men will be picking their vacations for 2023, a year ahead of time. Well, they pick all the good times. When the time I got down to where I was, you know, I pick them March and April or something. Never could get a summertime one. And then she said, we want to travel. So I said, well, I've had enough. Plus, I hope you're not rolling on this. You are?
Oh, this is gold.
Oh. McGuire hitting, you know, he hit, in 1998, he hit 18 home runs here in St. Louis. And I was on the camera for almost every one of them, but I never got to see it because my duty was to follow him around the bases. And I didn't hear, I could hear the crowd cheer, then I knew it was a home run, but I just had to stay on him. So I had no idea where the ball went. But that was really, I was the only cameraman assigned to that ball game because they weren't covering every game until finally he got close to making the record. Ended up with 5 stations from all over the country were there. And the boss said, "Ray, your camera's hot all the time in case somebody else wants a picture of it, so don't go flashing it around. Just pretend you're on all the time." And that was really something like that. And I got his autograph, of course. Although he rolled his eyes. For that book I've got an autograph, I asked him, "Would you sign it?" It was Father's Day, and I went down where his came. Everything was set up, ready to go Sunday, and I went down where he pulls in this big BMW, and I asked him if he'd sign a book. Oh, sure. So he signed a book, and I said, "My son's collecting baseballs. Would you mind signing that?" Okay, I gave him. He signed the baseball. And my grandson is starting a book just like this. And that's when he rolled his eyes. But he signed it. And then as he started to walk away, I said, his son was with him. And I said, "Happy Father's Day." And he said, "And to you too." So he mellowed after that. See, if you use something like that, he's not as mad. And he didn't get a home run that day, but he did get a hit. No, he did have a home run and a hit. So it was a good Father's Day for him and for me. Of all things, I have my son's oldest boy, David. He is in television. He was going to be a medical therapist, but he got a fill-in job on a PBS station down in Greenville, South Carolina. And he liked it so well, he now has his own company taking videos of, and he's made 2 documentaries, short ones, about dairy farmers in Wisconsin and a pipe making place in North Carolina. He's won awards for both of them. And when he started out, he asked me, what do you do? I said, well, first of all, what it is when you get a job someplace and they ask you to do something, don't hesitate to say, "I've never done that before, but I've always wanted to learn. I always wanted to do that." If you say, "No, I can't," it's a negative thing. But if you say, I want to do that, I want to learn how. I said, anytime they ask you to do something, do your best. And they won't criticize you or get mad at you if you've already said, "I don't know how, but I really want to do this. I really enjoy doing it." And I said, and don't turn down any job. I said, and when you do the job, do it the best you can, as if it's, this might be the best thing in your life at the time. You're going to improve each time, but do the best you can. Don't be halfway about it. Don't just do part way, that this is good enough. You can always do better. And when you get going into business further on, you'll look back and say, "I could have done that better, but it was the best that you could do at that time." And also is that you got to be friendly with people. You're working with people. You're not working with machinery or unfeeling things. Get the people in the right mood. Most of your good directors and cinematographers in Hollywood, they have a repertoire with the people, so that they got them at ease. They're not worried about what you're going to holler or scream at them, that you can just be doing it. But just do the best you can. Try all, and if you come up with a new idea or something, suggest it. Don't say, what we ought to do. You can come up with an idea that, what if I tried this camera shot from over here? What would that do? And the guy can say, "No, we don't have time," or, "Well, let's see." And after a while, they'll be taking your advice. Like I said, it's a greater profession to be in. Believe me, you are not creating history, you're preserving history, no matter what it is. If it's a history of your infant crawling on the floor for the first time, you're creating history. I said to my grandson, he was never interested in it at all. All of a sudden, he just said, "Grandpa," I'm working this television station, and he says, "They want me to do this and that." I said, "Well, don't say you can't do it. Don't say, 'Oh, I can't do that,' Say, 'Well, hey, yeah, I've seen that. I'd like to learn how to do that.'" Ended up just doing minor work till finally he was running a camera, setting up the lights, and it was a PBS station, not a big one. But he started when he found out there was a need for commercials, and he bought when they were first coming out, a drone. And he went out to these used car lots and had the drone fly over, got pictures of it, He'd make a commercial up, but he made them up and then take it to the dealer and show it to him. And then the dealer said, "Oh, good, we'll take it," and he got paid for it. After a while, he got people calling him. They wanted something like that done too. So he's got a good head on his shoulder. He won a scholarship an academic and a sports scholarship to a college in South Carolina. So he was top A's all the way through, and he showed me some of the stuff. He edits it, puts music to it, and he he amazed me at what he's doing. But he's been really a blessing to me that somebody's going to be in television too. So he's really good at it. And he did this one. They won an award of an Iowa farmer about how he has to sell his cows off and everything. He went out there. He got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be over. So when the guy lets his cows out at 5 in the morning, when it's dark and cold, and he interviews the guy in the barn with the cows and all. I said, I don't know how he never went to school or anything. He just learned on watching it, So he's doing very well with that. Most of the people you meet, if you're open and kind with them, they'll respond. My father always said that you can't get in an argument with somebody if they're laughing. And he had a way of making people laugh that if you were upset or mad about something, suddenly you weren't upset or mad. So a sense of humor is really good to have on any kind of a job, to make the best of. I always told people I'm doing the best I can with what I have and then some. I'm trying to think of what, I can't think of anything else. The only thing I didn't get into was a nudist colony.
Hey, Ivanka, I just had another great idea for selling books.
Not another one.
No, we get a guy on YouTube to make a commercial for us.
Do you really think that would work?